By the time the baking was finished, Mrs. Thurman had excused herself and gone to bed. "Now for the icing," said Nancy. When the cake was cool enough, she covered it with thick, creamy swirls of dark chocolate and studded the top with whole walnuts. Bess sighed. "It's too bad we can't have just a teeny piece now, isn't it?" "I sure could go for a slab," Tex agreed hungrily. "Come on, Cookie," Dave coaxed Nancy. "Think how good that would taste us poor riders out on the midnight watch," Bud said in his soft drawl. "Saddle sore, weary." "You're breaking our hearts," George said cheerfully. "Graham crackers and milk tonight," Nancy announced with a chuckle. "You'll get your cake tomorrow." In the morning, Alice could hardly contain her excitement over the trip to the cabin. Not wanting their destination known, Nancy had warned Alice to say nothing of her hopes at the breakfast table. When Aunt Bet asked the girls about their plans, Nancy said, "Alice and I would like to go for a ride in the mountains." George had letters to write, and Bess said she wanted to wash and set her hair. "I'll saddle up for you," Shorty volunteered. Nancy was surprised at his friendly gesture. She and Alice thanked him, then hurried to change into riding clothes. When they were dressed and waiting on the portico, Tex walked up, leading Nancy's bay. Just behind him came Shorty with a sorrel for Alice. Nancy stepped into the yard and mounted easily. With a shrill whinny, the horse reared. "Hang on," Tex shouted. Nancy gripped the pommel tight and hung on to the reins. The horse pitched high and landed stiff-legged on all fours. Tex seized the bridle and held the bay down, giving Nancy time to fling herself from the saddle. "Hey, boy, easy now," Tex said as he tried to calm the excited animal. "Nancy, are you hurt?" Alice asked worriedly. "I'm all right," Nancy replied breathlessly. "But what's the matter with the horse?" Shorty had hurried to Tex's assistance, and now the snorting steed was standing still. The red-haired cowboy's eyes narrowed with suspicion as he loosened the saddle girth and reached up under the blanket. "I thought so." He brought out his hand and held it open for the others to see. In his palm lay a nettle. Shorty's eyes grew wide. "Well, what do you know about that?" he drawled. Tex looked at him levelly. "What do you know about this?" "Me?" exclaimed Shorty. "Some mean coyote pulled that trick, not me." "You saddled the animals," Tex retorted and turned to Nancy. "I was passing the stable when Shorty came out with these mounts. He asked me to bring this one over to you." "Now, hold on there a minute," Shorty put in. "When I went to the stable after breakfast, I found this bay already saddled. I throwed the saddle on the other one and brung him out. That's all I know about it. You got no call to accuse me. No, sir, not me." Tex's face flushed with anger. "If you're telling the truth, Shorty Steele, I apologize." Before the stocky cowboy could answer, Nancy suggested that Tex check Alice's saddle blanket. He did, and reported that it was all right. The girls mounted and rode toward the meadow. "I don't believe Shorty was telling the truth," said Alice. Nancy said nothing, but she was inclined to agree. Aloud, she said, "Someone has not given up trying to get me out of the picture." When they finally sighted the cabin, Nancy reined up behind the clump of big boulders. She swung from the saddle and ground-hitched her horse, but was not so quick as Alice. The younger girl dashed to the cabin and knocked on the door. As Nancy ran up, it was opened by a slender, gray-haired man. With a shock, Nancy recognized him. He was the one who put the snake's rattle into her knitting bag and dropped the warning note into the car.